Hey traders, welcome to Charts and Coffee. Hope everyone's having a great Wednesday morning. It's actually cold here in, where's my lighting? There we go. It's actually cold down here in South Florida. Woke up to not 90-degree weather. Hope everyone's having a good morning. I actually also, this morning, I know, in all transparency, because that is what we're all about in Charts and Coffee and the Sector Secrets Mastery. Yes, there's some coffee in here, but I made some, I don't know why they call it ceremonial, but I had some ceremonial cacao this morning. Not too bad. No sweetener, nothing. Just 4 ounces of water, 1 ounce of chopped up cacao. Not bad. Ain't coffee. Don't worry, this will not become cacao and charts anytime soon, but not too bad. All right, so as always, gang, phone lines are open for your requests. If you have any symbols that you want to take a look at, let me know if you're long or short. Let me know what time frame you're looking at. Let me know what your outlook is or what it is you're trying to do, and then run that through the structure or run that through the volume, the volatility, and see what we've got. Speaking of that, this morning before kicking off the show, the Lorna bot and I were looking at gold, and we were just taking a peek at the way in which the volatility on, you can see here, the fourth upset, and this is on purpose. This is not an accident. This is not an error. Upset the daily price movement range. So the gray, which is normally support, started printing above the gold, which is normally resistance. What does that mean? First of all, this doesn't mean that there's a sell or a buy or anything. The first thing is it simply means there's increased volatility. This volatility that's beyond the 68% probability for this particular symbol on that particular day, right? And that's another thing that's unique to the DPMR. So if you look back on the 4th, right? So this was Monday. When you go back and look at the typical behavior of Monday in gold, the DPMRs are saying, wait, we're doing something way abnormal, right? It's the 32% rare air. Things have settled down since. So the very next day, the 5th, things settled down on Tuesday, and they're back to normal here now come Wednesday. And that means the daily price movement range was not only valid for the 5th, but it will be valid for the 6th. And for those of you that are wondering, in a green trend environment, is this a buy? Oh, heck yeah. We just want to be respectful of those volatility days where something abnormal is happening, which actually increases the possibility of abnormal risk as well. So keep that in mind. Gold is definitely something that I'd like to be a buyer in. I get questions on silver from time to time, and silver is also in an uptrend. Silver also had a very wonky Monday, and then things started to act a little bit more normally come you can see right here on the 5th, right? Come Tuesday. And then is there a potential buy? Yeah, for sure, right? There's a potential buy here too. All right, that being said, let's go take a peek at, there's another symbol I've been getting a lot of questions about, and that is, Rag, what's happening with the NAS? Are you still as bullish with this symbol as you were, well, darn near all year long? Yes, absolutely. What we want to wait for is the pullback into the daily price movement range. What we want to wait for is the overall movement off the daily price movement range, coupled with ideally an event that would suggest that that move to the DPMR or the wave for that matter was exhaustive. Now you might say, Rob, what does that mean? That means that I'm looking for a catalyst, a hot zone. We've had jolts already. We're coming up on non-farm payroll on Friday. Ideally, those moves into the daily price movement range come on the heels of a high impact volatility event and give us more of an exhaustive expectation. Do we need that? No, I tend to be a little bit more just, I really want a perfect setup. I want to start with what's perfect and then whittle away from what I'm willing to tolerate before I put my money at risk. So always start off with what textbook or perfect would be. Not that that's what we'll get, right? That's not always what we're going to get, clearly. But if I start with what's ideal, then I'm not starting off with the minimum requirement, but the maximum requirement and working down from there. So going forward, will I be as adamant about a hot zone driving price into the daily price movement range? Probably not if a fill is what I'm after. All right, so let's get to it. I see some questions popping up in the chat. And first off is Apple and Microsoft. D. Bolton, all I can do now, I mean, it's 6 minutes after 9, right? All I can do now is make an assessment about what is happening with Apple and Microsoft, mainly on two fronts. Do I want to look at the multi-trend on the 5-minute yet? Probably not. But I do want to remember that we're in the aftermath of the ADP, the private non-farm payroll, and we do have an uptrend on Apple, and we're trading above the previous session close. So there's a lot to like about being bullish in Apple. There's a lot to like about being above that line in the sand, that previous session close. As far as Microsoft goes, if I'm taking a look at Microsoft and I see the pullback and I see the DPMR in play and we're trading above the previous session close, yeah, absolutely. We're gonna look for very likely long positions. But this far out, I don't know what the day trade's gonna be, but I do know that we're definitely going to be looking at the long side. Yes. So, and those are two great candidates, and those two candidates are a big part of the XLK, and the XLK, of course, is the number one weighted sector in the NASDAQ. All right. So let's see. What is the next question here? All right, there we go. I was looking for it because I thought it was a really cool question. Thank you, Penelope. Penelope asked, what is the difference between momentum trading and scalping, or is it the same thing? So, Penelope, these are tricky things. I love the question because it really reminds us all that asking the individual trader, in this case, thank you for asking me, what is the definition of momentum trading and scalping for me, right? I will in no way say I'm speaking for all of traderdom, right? But for me, it's the same thing. Yeah, to me, scalping is in many ways taking advantage of momentum, but I'm no scalper. That's not my expertise. That's not an active style for me, but it is for the Lorna bot. So Lorna, who is in the Sector Secrets Mastery, she does share her Lorna bot scalping technique in that room. I would probably defer to Lorna bot, but I'll tell you, even when we're scalping, we're trying to take advantage of exhaustion. We're trying to still take advantage of price sinking into support before we buy. We're still trying to take advantage of shorter term moves. So, for me, scalping has a momentum component, but more so than anything, scalping is really probably the smallest time horizon style that any trader can consider. It's not a matter of it being good, bad. It's not a matter of it being anything other than preference. It happens to be the shortest time horizon type style that I think any trader can deploy in the market. So is momentum a part of it? I think, yes, I would say momentum would be a part of it. All right, next up is Qualcomm on the daily time frame. Sure. So Munir, if I'm looking at Qualcomm, overall uptrend, thank you for the time frame, right? Thank you for the time frame, because the time frame does indicate the slice of psychology that we're trying to capitalize on. And related to Penelope's question, a daily time frame is going to have a bigger time horizon. So that said, do I want to be buying pullbacks here? I do. The question is, where on earth are they? Where are the pullbacks in Qualcomm? How aggressive do I have to be? And what I'll say is, I think there's probably a pretty good justification for maybe something as even short as a 13-period exponential moving average. Now, for that, I'll use something along the lines of the 13 propulsion. The 13 propulsion is going to capitalize on a short-term EMA crossing with the longer-term EMA, lighting up the propulsion dots, like you see here on this chart, the white dots, lighting up the dots, telling me that a self-correcting exponential moving average is in play. So propulsion's job is to do two things. One, have a self-correcting sort of smart EMA, but two, also take advantage of moving average crosses, which actually, even though they're one of the most classic old school type ways of using moving averages, I still think they work really well if there's a criteria used that's consistent. And the consistent criteria for me would be picking a steady moving average to use as a cross. And for me, that's usually going to be an 8 or a 5 sometimes. So that's it. I'm not going to get too cutesy about it. And I think that at this point, in an accelerated view of the daily chart of Qualcomm, we should be looking at probably a shallower pullback. And then also, another thing you can do, Munair, and again, this is sort of the question before the question, why Qualcomm, right? Is Qualcomm the best example of a stock in that sector? Or might there be more? So it's not just Qualcomm, or might there be others that may be pulling back, giving us opportunity when Qualcomm isn't? So it's always good to know where the individual stock that we're looking at is hanging out in the broader markets, because it just opens up to more related or sometimes better possibilities. All right. Moving on. Thank you for the question. What is the name of those lower green and yellow, the two bars at the bottom? BLP, this is a staple on all my charts, and it's something that's included with the Sector Secrets Mastery, by the way. It's called the multi-trend. And what it does is it studies 4 exponential moving averages, and its job, and it has one job, and it does it really well, is to tell me what the momentum, that's the upper row, and the trend, that's the bottom row, is doing. Red is bearish, yellow is neutral, green is bullish. All right, Richard asks, what's my opinion on SPY? Well, my first opinion is I'm going to start with the ES, because the ES is that more nearly 24-hour view of what's happening in the S&P. So anything that I see on the ES will map to SPY, will map to SPX, will map to MES micro futures. We want to be buyers here. Now, again, lacking a time frame, Richard, I don't know what time frame you're looking at, so I'll just go to the daily. So on the daily, I want to be a buyer. And there's a lot of reasons I want to be a buyer. XLK is moving higher, XLF is moving higher, and these are the main 2 cylinders within the engine that is the S&P. So if I've got a bullish overall outlook on the ES, that means I want to buy the dip in SPY, in MES, in SPX, etc. Right back to the, definitely right back to looking at the daily price movement range, right back to buying the dip. And that's going to be something that, as we go through December, should continue to work, because the S&P is up on the year. The S&P is above the 200 propulsion. The S&P has 2 out of 3 cylinders, if you will, sectors firing away. It's hard to bet against a relative outperformer like SPY. All right. Next up, by the way, uptrends on the buy list was gold. Hey, I appreciate it, because my time cutting those videos is only as good as you all benefiting from them. And so I appreciate your time. It was a 11-minute video. Okay. We've been doing some beefy videos lately. I promise we'll start shortening them up a little bit. But as of late, we've been really trying to, frankly, I'm trying to, as the year winds down, I'm really trying to give you all an idea of what we're doing in the mastery. I'm trying to give you an idea of how I trade. And for 2 reasons. One, what we've been doing has been working all year. 2, I really want everyone watching the video to be able to discern whether or not I'm someone who can help them with their trading or not. I don't want to waste your time at all. I want you to go, gosh, Rog, I've been watching you in Charts and Coffee. I've been watching your videos, and that style resonates with me. Or, Rog, good for you. I'm glad you've been doing this for 30 years, but it does not resonate with me. And both decisions are really important. And the only way I know to be able to do that is give you all a preview of what we do as best I can. So I appreciate the time, of course. All right, next up, how do I feel about early trading before 9:30? Eddie, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I would focus on day trades. And so it's not a matter of how I feel about it. Here are the realities. All right, my friend. First of all, it's not stocks. It's not ETFs. It's going to be futures or forex. So the first consideration is what market type are you open to trading? If it's futures and forex, fantastic. Pre-market, pre 9:30 works. The next thing is which window pre-market, right? Are you going to focus on the European or UK open? Are you going to focus on the Asian close? Or are you going to focus on the, say, 2 to 2.5 hours before the bell in New York? And so again, these are all decisions that every trader makes. And if it's between 7 and say 7 and 9:30 Eastern, again, it's still futures, it's still forex. And so my feeling about it is not so much whether or not it's feasible. It is. There's another adjustment we have to make when we're taking a look at 7 to 9:30, for example. 9:30 might as well be another planet. 9:30 might as well be another day. Because remember, at 9:30, now the Wall Street bell rings, now there's a whole other level of participation. Whatever was happening in the hour or minutes before that, it could be a completely different thing. How many times have we seen a candle on our chart that's 2 inches tall on the screen? This is what 9:30 presents. I would definitely have a cutoff at 9:30. The other thing is be aware of 8:30 hot zones, or in the example of today, be aware of the 8:15 hot zones. Be aware of hot zones that are released at 8:30 a.m. that are going to affect that 7 to 9:30 window. And so that's really it. The last thing is adjust for the different amount of volatility, because the volatility based on daily price movement ranges, the volatility at that point in the morning is distinctly different, much smaller. Usually, unless there's an 8:30 hot zone, like non-farm, usually the volatility is going to be far less than what we'd see after 9:30. All right. So thank you for the question. Next up is, what are my thoughts on 5-minute Intel? So again, gang, it's, until the bell rings, kind of going back to Eddie's question. Any opinion that I'm going to have before 9:30 is simply a pre-market opinion that could get completely upended at 9:30. So there's no way to look at what it is we're going to do on Intel after 9:30 at 9:18 in the morning. What I can say, though, is where are we right now? Are we above the previous session close? Are we in a trend on the daily? So we're on a trend on the daily, which is cool. And we're at 42.34 right now, which is above, right? If I take a look here, is it above the previous session close? Yeah, not only is it above the previous session close, it's pretty much at the high. So we're going to open pretty strong. I'll be likely looking for buying opportunities. But again, please remember, there's no way to know 10, 20, 30 minutes before the bell rings if Intel's going to have one of those crazy 9:30 opening candles. That said, the things that I can do before the bell rings would be, where is Intel in relation to the previous session close? And what's the structure on the daily time frame? Is there a path of least resistance? And that would be a yes. All right. The next question is, and thank you, Pierre, for the question. Mike says, can't get, I appreciate that, Mike. Oh, believe me, but you can. Yes, absolutely. We could hit Raghee threshold. We can. Just ask my husband. All right. Charles says, yes, the trading room offers tons of value. I appreciate that. Jay Charles. That's very, very generous of you. Look, I was just bragging on the folks in the mastery yesterday because it is a little oasis. It's an oasis of focusing on trading. It's an oasis of supporting each other, knowing that trading, really great trading happens when people are doing something very similar at a high level. And if I were to imagine, if my room was actually a trading floor, what's the best way to accomplish success? Educate everybody in a particular style that's been time tested. make sure we stay focused on that style. We don't start to wander off into let's try this other disparate thing that we haven't time tested. I'll give you an example. I mentioned Lorna Bot has a scalping style, right? 2 years it was tested. The last 6 months was the most intensive of it. But for 2 years, we tried to disprove the hypothesis of the way that she scalps. So when I talk about something that's been time tested, 6 months, that's at a minimum. It's usually a year, 2 years. Most of what I share are things I've been doing for decades. And so once I know something's going to work through all sorts of seasons of the market, then we stay focused on the best opportunities and we work together and support each other. And, clearly 2 eyes are fine, but, having hundreds of eyes on the market looking at things in a similar way is extremely powerful. All right. So with that being said, gang, I am running over time. Thank you as always for your questions. Thanks for being here for Charts and Coffee. I got to shut up now and head on over to the Mastery folks and get our day started. Be good to each other, gang. I'll talk with you soon.